help you really quick with actually what I drew for today to show you guys, if everyone showed up, but you get to see it for yourself. So let me pull it up here
Mm-hmm.
because I think this concept, can you see my screen?
Yeah,
Should be an
let
iPad.
me, yeah, let me just, I'm using my phone, so
Yep.
here we go.
Let me know if that's better.
Do it. Yeah, this is better.
All right. So the number one thing, I guess, just for these sessions in general is this: we can just be on the same page of the understanding that the mind supersedes everything. So it supersedes
Mm-hmm.
body. It's always going to be mind. And when we get to that point, then you're going to love this graphic here. So the first thing we have is a thought. After the thought, we can formulate a word. After the word, we have an action, and that gives us a result. The reason I show it to you like this is so that way you can see that no matter what we do, it doesn't matter how hard you try, this will always
Mm-hmm.
be the cause. And that is always going to determine your effect, no matter what happens in between.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's going to be a lot of things that could happen in between, but that's always going to be the cause and effect. So now what's really cool is knowing that we can take it down into our subconscious mind and we talk about beliefs, which then create a habit. So you have a belief that you just told me that you put
Yeah.
too much pressure on one call, so we got to do two, which gives us the habit of doing two calls. Now, before we talk about that, I want to show you the top side. As we go up in the different direction, think of like super conscious. This is more of like our spiritual side. We have value systems, like morals and ethics. We have values that can be really great and aligned, but we can have sometimes values that are misaligned, and that creates our limit. So we have a value misalignment that's creating a limit in the situation, but we also have a belief. So what I want to do is we go back down here to this belief, and you told me before that you don't like to do the one close because there's too much pressure. So that's why you like to do two. So the question that I would ask you for you to ask yourself is what evidence do you have to prove that that belief is true, that there's too much pressure on one call closes?
Yeah. I mean, I want to do call closes. Like, I want to be that savvy that's only one call closing. I think it's my background. Way back, I was in corporate, so everything super polite,
So
diplomatic.
pause 1 second. What was the proof that you have? Like,
Proof. Okay. Proof was
yeah, yeah.
one. So proof was one. When people tell me, oh, I've been to these calls before and I just hate pressure tactics. So
Mhm.
people verbalizing that to me, but also honestly, spending time on social media and seeing that feedback in comment, in communities, in like
Yeah,
reactions from their other YouTube videos. Like
infecting the mind.
yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, so we got two really good things out of that. Number one is a part of this belief is coming from another person. Would you want someone else to dictate your own belief system?
Yeah.
Like, no, no, you don't. I hope not.
Oh,
like,
I thought said, would you want
uh,
something to dictate your belief
uh,
system? Don't want someone else to
yeah,
dictate my
yeah,
belief system.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want to dictate your belief system, so we want to
Yeah.
erase those comments as hard as that may be. The second piece of it was that from what clients had said to you, I don't like to be pressured. So that's a really great way for you to be the antithesis of what they want. Or sorry, what they don't like is you can say, hey, no worries. There's no pressure on this call. All I ask is that we can have a good connection where we can understand each other. So that way I can understand exactly what you need and you can understand exactly what I provide. And at the end of it, we can have a conversation about whether or not it's going to be a good fit. Does that work for you?
Mm-hmm.
And you notice there that the language that I used did not necessarily say I was going to sell you anything. I just said that we're going to have a conversation to see if we're a good fit.
Mhm.
So with the belief systems, you see right there, we identify two, like one, a major problem. We're allowing someone else to infect our beliefs.
Yeah.
So just a, I guess, a good tip that's helpful with that is for you to take some time and establish like what are those beliefs? Like what do you believe from your experience based on sales? Because like this is the
Mhm.
interesting thing. I would say that I don't think you should ever ask any person for a piece of advice on solving your problem because it's your problem. Right. So I'm not going to, like, I can't tell you what to do for your problem, but I can show you all these different perspectives and then you can decide which is the best one. Thinking that that same concept with your client. No one wants to be told what to do, right? So the way that you can reduce pressure is to not tell them what they need to buy, but you can show them all these different perspectives like we are right now so they see that you are the answer.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right? So that's, I know that's a deep one. That's the first piece. The second piece is values, is around fear, right? We get in some fear there. So
Mhm.
this would be of, if I could ask just directly, what are you afraid of specifically? Not closing the sale, or is there something more than that?
Um, Two levels. The first level is not closing sale.
Mm-hmm.
Second level is disappointing the business owner because some super them see calls on a calendar and they will be super excited. Oh, see all these qualified people on your calendar. We are going to kill today. And so when I'm at that point, I feel like I don't want to run the call because at the G level, it's the disappointing their expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And on a third level, it's that I hate seeing zero bills on my own pressure, it's like on a surface level, I don't want to have illusions. And of course, there's money to that too. But the deepest is, I think, that what feels that is fear is like,
Okay. So just so I can clarify, because your audio cut a little bit, we had fear of disappointment for other people. Is that
mm-hmm,
the first one? And then
yeah,
and then the other one was the fear of the zeros on the line, not closing the sale, right?
yeah, mm-hmm.
So when it comes to fear of disappointment, is it is it, I guess, what expectation are you afraid of disappointing would be the question I would ask. And I guess
Oh,
so if you can answer that. And I don't know if the
mm-hmm.
turning the phone might help, but the audio is super muffled again.
Yeah, yes, and also when I now because it's so choppy, I'll log from myself to one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. I'm hoping this
No
is
worries.
better.
Yeah, much better, much better. All right, so back to the fear of disappointment. Is what's the
Uh-huh.
expectation that you're concerned about letting down or disappointing?
Um, Disappointing in terms of like I was saying, they would look at my calendar, for example, and they would see all these calls booked, and they're getting all excited because the leads look like great leads, right? So
Mm.
I can see them in the chat like, oh, today's gonna be, today's gonna be a big sales day because we see all these qualified leads on your calendar. And then the fear of that moment at the end of the day that I have to come back with my end of day with zero sales on it is the
Mm-hmm.
biggest cringe. But then deeper than that, I think it's like you're not as good as we thought you were going to be in terms of like your skills. So I don't know if that's like a good enoughness
Mm-hmm.
type of thing, but like if I dig deeper, that's what comes up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that no, and that's great. That's great for you to connect that because that sounds like what is happening is that the surface level is an expectation is kind of unspoken that hey, it's going to be a
Mm-hmm.
great day because, which is the
Mm-hmm.
difficulty of language is that doesn't just because there's a lot of leads on the calendar doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
that's an immature mind. To no offense to that person, will jump to that conclusion. So the first thing I would ask actually, do you have a relationship that is, let's say, close enough with them to be able to ask them not to do that? Like to have an open conversation about like, hey, like I wanted to I want to test something with my sales. I feel like on the days that you get me hyped up, I actually do worse. Like, is it okay if we
Mm-hmm.
just test for a little while? Like something, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
if you can have that open conversation, that can alleviate it immediately because it stops it at the source. The other
Mm-hmm.
thing is that going back to like beliefs and values, all I'm doing is the same thing you can do, which is questioning it. It's just
Mm-hmm.
having it's learning to have this conversation internally of like when your mind jumps to, oh, like they just said we're having a big sales day, I better perform. Like, do you really need to perform? Like they're not going to love you any less if you don't perform because they didn't last time. You know what I mean? Like now, if there's a situation in which they are, then there's a whole conversation around whether or not you even want to work for someone like that or work with someone like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where you can start to question some of your own stories. That's which is again, that's what I did earlier. Is when I first asked you about this, your first about the proof, you went to a story.
Yeah.
That's the mind. The mind always wants to explain away. It wants to explain the whole story. So if you can jump in front of your own story and say, wait a second, what are the facts? And then
Mm-hmm.
you literally ask yourself that question, like, is it actually true? And the first answer, you're probably going to try to say yes. So it's like, okay,
And
is it
I was
actually,
gonna say, like, can I change the story? You
well,
know?
well, that's why it takes repetition is so the first question is this absolutely true? And you're going to like, yeah, it is. Well, is it absolutely true without a doubt in your mind that this is what occurred? And that cannot be the case unless you have the proof, which you don't for most of the like
Mm-hmm.
99% of our stories. We don't have the proof. If we are getting proof, it's more than likely we're trying
Mm-hmm.
to construct something to fit the story. That's how
Yeah.
I say strong our minds are, is we will create a story to protect ourselves from the pain of reality, even though that reality will help us. So
Mm-hmm.
this method here
Mm-hmm.
is how you can help your mind. If you like, I can show you how you can help your sale. Is that good?
Yes.
Or if you have a question too, feel free to ask.
Yes. No, let's go from there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In terms of like helping me with the I mean, because I know
Well, I want to show you
I
how to turn
know
this.
a
I want
part
to show
of
you how
it
to
is
turn it into a
skills
one sale.
related, but I think yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So without going too deep into like I'd like to teach you a ton of different principles around like universal principles you could apply to sales. But if you can just understand, and we can agree
Mm-hmm.
that in everything we do, there are two poles. It's always there's two opposites. We're going to compression, expansion. We breathe in, we breathe
Mm-hmm.
out, we go up, we go down, we go left, we go right, like in, out, back, forth. There's always a back and forth. So we need to find balance
Mm-hmm.
between these. And there's always going to be this movement back and forth. That's number one. Number two, everything spirals. All motion is actually spiraling motion, which leads us to compression, which is contracting, concentrating, forcing down. Or it goes outwardly, expanding, which is opening, widening, creating more awareness. That is going to allow you to understand this thing I created here. I call it the sales spiral. So ultimately, in a sale, this is what is occurring on a high level. We can do both and jump in. Like very simple terms, but if you can just keep this in mind, this is exactly what you want to do inside of the sale to make it a one sale. You can repeat this process over and over again. What's up, Wilson? Just explaining some cool image I just created called the sales spiral. So someone is coming to you and they have a problem. They're all in on their problem. They're focused on their problem. They're in their story, right? Our goal is to ask open-ended questions to open awareness and create clarity. We want them to become aware of their problem and clear on what it is. That's step number one. Step number two is we chunk up in our terminology, in our language, to find agreement with ambiguity. And then we unwind them to expand their mind to be ready to receive the specific solution that we have for the problem. So what do I mean by that? How would you like it if in the next 5 minutes I gave you everything that you need to get exactly what you wanted, so you'd never have to think about the things that you don't want to think about? There'd be no obstacles, and you'd immediately get the result that you've always ever wanted. That's a very ambiguous statement, and I said nothing, but you agreed because it's obvious agreement. That's what I mean. If you listen to politicians, it's the same thing. They don't actually say anything. They say a lot of ambiguous things, and then one side agrees, the other side gets really upset. But they haven't actually said any value in there. So you can use that concept. It's called Milton model processing for language, where we chunk up. It expands the awareness, gets agreement on the topic we're talking about, and builds rapport. Like rapport is a literal energetic thing that's created between two humans. Once you've expanded them, so we've opened them up, that's the first spiral. We're going to spiral them back into your solution. We do this by showing that you have knowledge and understanding of their problem, and then you ask for permission to share your solution to them, and you word it in a way that accommodates their obstacles, their needs, and it shows that you can solve their problem. Then you share your solution to their specific problem in a language that overcomes their obstacles and objections, and then it confirms that the solution fits. Plus, you get a choice of action. So there's always 4 steps: thought, word, action, result. There's always going to be 4 steps in anything that we do with creation. Again, this is like big level stuff, like anything you literally create, like the concept of creation, we have 4 steps every time. There's always got to be awareness, clarity, action, result in psychology. Thought, word, action, result in the mind. In sales, you got aware of the problem, clear on the problem. Here's my solution. Make a choice, and jump forward. So this concept here, the spiral, this is how you take someone who's coming in on a cold call, or they're coming in for this one call sale, who has probably got themselves focused on their story or their problem that's specific to them and no one else has in the world except them. But they do not want to be sold because they hate being under pressure, because they're under so much pressure already. They're compressed. If you expand them, they will release to you. This is like an energetic concept, but it's a literal thing that will happen. And you've seen this in sales where someone literally falls into your lap. They've spilled their love story to you. It's like the perfect sale. This is what you're doing. You just don't necessarily know it. But this is the concept of how it happens. As they open and expand, you're going to start to see them become more receptive to the words that you're saying. Once they become more receptive, we take them up even higher. Like, again, very general things. Like, hey, would it be okay with you if at the end of this call you had everything that you needed to move forward? Yeah, like, why wouldn't it? Like, it's an obvious thing, but like who here wants everything that they've always wanted and never have to experience any of the issues that you had in the past? And if you could do it in 5 minutes, I can give it to you right now. Do you want to have that? Like, hey, everyone shout, raise your hand. It's all these silly things you hear in conferences. Like, it's pulling people into agreement. If you watch Hermosi's event, like, it is literally a class in this concept. It's high level, deep psychology and hypnotism. It's very, very good. But this is all he's doing. He's expanding people into their awareness of, hey, does everyone want to make money? And then they're driving them back down to, hey, you need to buy this book if you want to make money because it tells you exactly what to do. And it just keeps over and over and over again. So whatever it is that you're selling, we want to expand them out and then drive them into your solution that's different than anything else. Does that make sense? Like the spiraling effect I'm talking about and how you can utilize this into a 1 sale versus a 2 sale? Because
Yeah.
if you break the sales, what do? We break the spiral and we break the connection. And then you got to rebuild it in the next call.
So with the spiral, do you mean pulling them out into dreamland, like the higher version of themselves that they're trying to get with the solution? Or with the spiral, do you mean expand them into how open they are to receiving what I'm saying?
So with the spiral, when someone gets on that sales call and they're in their problem and their story, they think it's very specific to them and no one else has it. Like no one's ever experienced this. I am the only one. Like it poor me. We want to expand them into agreement that there are solutions for your problem. The way that we're doing that is by using ambiguous terminology. That is a very easy thing for them to get on board with. As an example, if you are selling a computer and someone came to you and they needed a solution as a computer and you jumped right to selling your Apple computer, but they hated Apple, it wouldn't work. But if you jumped to selling this brand new computer and you never identified it as Apple, they would be in agreement until you identified the specificity of Apple, right? That's the thing. Specificity creates conflict. The more specific we get, the more conflict there will be because the more friction occurs. The more broad things are, the more easy it is to accept it.
I think I'm getting it. So, for example, it's expensive language could be like, if we were to be able to, help you fix X, Y, and Z and do it in a way that you wouldn't have to X, Y, and Z, would that be helpful? Is that kind of like the type of language, like verbiage that, am I
So
getting it?
yeah, so this one would be a great example of just adding a little bit of specificity to it. Is, hey, Mrs. Smith, if at the end of this call I could give you a 3-step solution that's going to make you more money without taking away any of your freedom, would that be better for you? Right? Money and freedom are very general. Now, if I said to someone, if at the end of this call I gave you a solution that's going to make you an extra $400 and you're not going to have to go to work tomorrow, would that work? Like those are two very specific statements that like if it's not the right person, they're going to disagree. So the idea is like there's a language level that everyone will agree on. It's generally ambiguous, meaning that you're using broad words that classify a whole category of things. So like freedom, money, passion, purpose. Like you could follow your purpose and you don't have to feel like you're getting pulled back into the rat race. Like these concepts that people were going to connect to and they're always going to say yes.
Yeah. Like, would that be better for you? Would you feel good about that? Would you be excited about that? Would that help? Would that be helpful? Now, my brain wants to go, would would you be able to make a decision on that today? But maybe that's too soon, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or
Well, so like
I could do that.
earlier in the call, I mentioned an example where I said that. So at the end of this call, would it be okay if we had a conversation to see if we're a good fit?
Right. Yes.
That's a much less, like that's a lesser commitment than if you said, are you going to be ready to make a decision today?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
see how definitive that is.
Yeah.
Whereas
Mm-hmm.
at that point in the sales conversation, there isn't any need to get that specific. Like they just like depending on your rapport level, they could have just met you. You might not have a high level of rapport, which is why we expand them out so that way we can become connected to them. Right? Like think of the person who's very closed off. We want to open them up. And the way we do that is we show that we're on the same page. It's the same concept as building rapport, but by finding like a commonality. Oh, hey, where do you live? Oh, hey, I have a friend there. Like it's the same idea. We're trying to build these connecting points. The way that we can build connecting points on the topic that we're specifically discussing is by broadening the subject. So if you're selling a sales solution, we want to stick with high level terms of sales. We don't want to get super nitty gritty into like data numbers and like percentages. Like that's not going to be great on the sale unless they've already jumped in and they're all for it. You could turn you turn someone away very quickly with too many specifics unless they're ready for the specifics. So that's why if you understand this spiraling concept, it's like it can't be violated. Like this is a law of the universe. Everything that goes in must come back out. If you breathe out, you must breathe back in or you will die. Right? It's that same concept. So if you're only compressing them, meaning we're only just staying on their problem and we're pushing, and you don't ever let them come back out, they're never going to open their mind to buy because they're going to be so in their problem. You've probably seen this described other ways of taking them on like a wave. We take them low, we take them high. It's the same concept, just using a spiraling nature to describe it versus a wave, because you don't want to be taking them up and down. We want to pulse in and pulse out and pulse in and pulse out. It's literally just like you breathe. It should be a rhythmic, balanced in and out. That rhythm in your conversation will create connection. And that connection will create your sale. And that will supersede any level of script. It will supersede anything that you could ever do as a skill, because we are operating on a plane of existence that is above skill sets. Like we're talking about like connecting mind to mind. Like high level sales. If you watch like the first training, I talked about this, like a great salesman should never have to listen to the words that someone speaks because they can see the thoughts in their mind. And that's the same. Like, we did it earlier. The words you say don't matter because I see your thoughts, because I understand that the thought comes before the word. So based on the words that you speak, I know the thoughts that you have. And based on the thoughts that you have, I know what you know, because you cannot think about something you don't know. Which I know is a very simple, silly statement, but it's truth. You can use these same concepts, going back to our first image, of identifying the value systems and beliefs that your prospect has based on the words they use. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm like still thinking about how I'm gonna implement that. But I can, like, listening to you, I can start to imagine how I would use it already, but I think I need to just try it a couple of times, right? But like
So one of the things
more,
one of the
sorry,
things
say, uh-huh.
one of the things I'd recommend to do to make it just very, this will give you a very like clear one for yourself, is I would record yourself on a sales call.
Yeah.
If you don't already have that, but take your recording,
Mm-hmm.
get a transcription of it,
Mm-hmm.
put that transcription into AI, ask
Mm-hmm.
the AI system to go through the transcription and rewrite it using Milton model language processing.
What's the name?
Milton,
Uh-huh.
Milton,
Milton. Okay, Milton model. Okay.
language processing.
Language processing.
That will take your
Okay,
transcript and
perfect.
it will make it ambiguous, and that way you can see what it's going to do to your words.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's other, like,
Yeah.
I mean, like just the ambiguity is like part one. Then we get into like, how do you start to use words that future pace things and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I have a couple of calls that I've downloaded, so I can use that. And then there's so much I want to do with like mindset stuff. So these are bi-weekly, right?
Yeah, and actually, this one was a makeup, so next week we'll do another one, and then they'll be bi-weekly.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because I mean, I've got questions about like burnout. I've got questions about belief before the call. There's so much, but I know
I'll
it's
solve it.
just
Right. So
too much for.
so take your Yep. So Wilson, if you have a question, I'll be happy to answer it. I just got to jump in like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
For
Just
your
one at a time. Yeah.
yeah, well, for your question though about burnout, it's the same concept as spiraling. You're spiraling in too much. You need to step back and relax. And I talked about that around the concept of thinking last call, of like going through work blocks and then going on walks. Same concept.
Mm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
holistically allowing your nervous system to reset will reduce burnout.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, Wilson, you got something that I can help you with quick?
Yeah, I'm not sure
I'm
if
gonna
you.
hop off. I'll see you in the next one.
Sounds good. All right, go ahead, Wilson.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to help me on 3 minutes. I don't want to waste your time.
No, just
So,
ask me.
so basically, I guess how do you unlearn things that you learned in the past that basically affect you in the future? What I mean by this is like, let's say you're 60 years old and you're in decent shape, and then you put a goal of being in shape in 6 months, and then by this 6 months goal, you are thinking about a certain way, and you know that you can get there. You believe, you understand that even though you're 60 years old, it's a lie that you cannot get in shape at that age, right? But there's still a thought in your mind that so you, in the span of those 6 months, you don't try hard enough, and the reason why you don't try hard enough is because behind you still kind of believe that you also why try to be better. You know what I'm saying? So how do you unlearn things and let those, I guess, believe, let's say, for example, money, right? I'm Hispanic. My family, they're Christians. So obviously God does not, the love of money, that's the root of evil, right? But I guess, how do you make yourself believe that money is good? So it's not affecting you to get money. Like it's never that's not stopping you back from getting to where you want to be.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the best way I want to answer this for you. You said that you grew up Christian.
Yeah, I mean, at some point I didn't believe in God, and now I do. By the way, also I see like your face. There's something about your face, and I guess, for example, when it comes to an animal, right? Just by the way that the eyes are shaped, you can tell that either they eat, that they are the prey, or they are the hunters. That there's something about you, like you can only see that when you're born again Christian, that the glory of God falls on your face. So I'm not sure if you're Christian or not, but that's the way I could define it.
Well, since you said that, I can tell you that on July 25th, I entered Christ consciousness, and I've been there every day since. And that's how I know these things that I'm sharing with you. And since you actually asked this question, I'm going to share with you something I created that I think you're going to really like. Because everything that nature creates is perfect, and everything that man creates is imperfect. Everything that man does is an imperfect representation of the perfection that nature has created. And at some point, we're going to reach so I told you that. We'll take it really deep. Everything started from nothing, and then there was something, and that one thing was one. Take everything that I just said, change it to God. And that, my friend,
What do you mean?
is one God and mind is all the same. The universe is the giant mind, and you are an individuation of mind. That's why God is within you. The heaven on earth is inside of your mind, and when you access this that I've accessed, you'll know what I mean. I don't experience any level of fear, hate, shame, guilt, nothing. I don't feel anything except for pure bliss and ecstasy in this moment of you and I talking right now. I can't hold another thought if I tried. That is the experience of cosmic consciousness.
So basically what you're saying is when you get to that point, things are just things. It doesn't affect you whether they are negative or positive. So for example, at this point, right, I don't believe that money is evil, but there's still something unconscious in my mind that tells me that it is. So it's two thoughts fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that money is evil, but there's one that's telling me, yeah, it is. You know what I mean?
So, and that's why the first piece. So there's two pieces of this from what I've gone. Like, one, I didn't ask for any of this. Like, I was a devout atheist prior to any of this shit. So I can tell you, I mean, I could translate anything from any ancient. I read all the ancient texts, not all of the ancient texts, but I've been studying all the ancient texts for the last 3 months. I understand them in a way that I don't fully know how to communicate to you. I have so much knowledge in my mind that I don't have the words to actually articulate it. If you can, it just really like it's understanding that everything is mind. Like if you can get that, man, like everything is mind. God is mind. You are God because you're an individuation of mind. When you have master control of your mind, you become the creator. That's what it all means.
That's what it means. What he said. I made. Let's make let's make man in our image,
Yeah,
right?
you are in
Father, the
that
Son, and the Holy
image.
Spirit. They say, let's make man in our image, right? Because a lion can only be a lion, a dog can only be a dog. Well, humans, we can really be anything that we want. You know, I don't. If I decide that I want to be a plumber, I can go and be a plumber. But if I want to be a builder of a house, then I can also be a builder of a house. It doesn't really matter as long as I put time and effort.
Yeah. If Americans understood the power of the words that they speak and the thoughts that they think, they would not cry for freedom of speech. They would beg for a law to control it because they have no clue of the dangers they have done.
Hmm.
And I mean that wholeheartedly.